The pro-exporters would tell you that there is a huge market out there for coal, and it will continue for 20, 30 or more years. There are others that are not so sure about that because of various issues around the world, including the fact that countries like Mongolia, China itself, places in Africa, Australia, Indonesia are all also supplying coal to these Asian countries. And China itself needs to work on its infrastructure to get more of its coal to its factories, but they are working now. We don't know how long it may be before they will be using their own coal instead of coal derived from other places. And it's all about the mighty dollar, how much it's going to cost per ton. And of course, these countries that are importing the coal are going to look for the cheapest prices possible.
Today, there's about 18 to 19 trains. The proposal is potentially to double that. So you'll now be experiencing doubling the amount of traffic, but it's not just number of trains. The fact is that these trains are about 1.6 miles long. What that means is when those gates come down, the traffic backs up. We have a significant safety issue that is occurring. Not only of that safety issue, we have the safety issue of emergency vehicles trying to get from east to west. When this is all blocked up, you can't get to them. So what is how do you quantify that in terms of delay and cost? We're talking hours of delay. What that relates to when we're talking long-term transportation plans is what's called a level of service F condition. You do not want an F. That's failure. And here we're talking about F on your system. And there is still the hope that we can bring the commuter rail further up north, increase passenger rail. The state has invested over $700 million in passenger rail along the Amtrak area. The commuter rail sounder train, over $300 million invested in those improvements. But what happens is freight, long distance freight, is far more lucrative to the railway lines than local freight or than passenger trains. And so as these lines, which in the Washington State's rail capacity report in 2008 indicated they're getting to capacity. So who gets pushed out? Local businesses, local freight lines get priced out of business. The inability to offer commuter rail, inability to add more passenger rail. All those are impacts along those corridors and along your long-range transportation plans.
Ships, and I'm not kidding, the increase in shipping in tankers is astronomical. 10 years ago, we're looking about maybe 10 to 20 tankers. we're going to be up to a point where there's going to be like 500 tankers a year coming and going out of there. These big monster ships that take 6 miles to stop. They're so big and heavy, and they can't steer with a dang, and there's no escorts for them. You mix in those with the tar sands oil ships coming down, and this is a real nightmare. That's just in the Salish Sea. And so they have a lot of spills, and they can't really do much when they have spills. They're too far out, it's too rough. They don't even have the equipment to do it. So when you have a spill of that stuff, it's called the most persistent type of oil in the world. It's 3 to 5 times more persistent than the worst crude oil. It lasts not 30 years, like up in the Exxon Valdez spill, but like 120 years. It separates into the solvents that they use come out on the top and destroy everything on the surface. The heavier stuff goes to the bottom where the halibut and all the other fish are. In many places, it kind of goes in between, depending on the density and the time of year. So it's impossible to clean up. It all comes together in your backyard. And if you want to see who's going to benefit, just follow the money. It goes right to Warren Buffett, it goes right to Goldman Sachs, it goes to these people we bailed out, remember, for their illegal activities. Same thing. If you want to see who's going to get hurt by this, you follow the fish. Follow the salmon. All the tribes, all the people in the Pacific Northwest, me included, that love salmon, that love the nature that we live in and what it gives us, it sustains us. If you follow those fish up to Columbia and all those streams, those fish are part of what keeps this whole Northwest amazing, that we all love so much. They all go to sea. All those salmon go to sea. And where they go to sea is under siege. It's under the biggest threat that I have ever seen in my lifetime. The more I studied this, the more I couldn't believe it. I said, this can't be possible. You know, it's coming at us in a big way, and we're gonna have to pull together on this one to, prevent really an ecological disaster.
Anybody that lives in the Portland area, I don't know if you guys are getting the same commercials, but we see commercials every day on almost every station, and it's called Northwest Jobs, and they're promoting these coal proposals and the jobs that are going to be created in our communities. And if we don't accept these proposals, the jobs are going to go to some other community. They talk about how they're going to pump all this money into the local schools and infrastructure, and they don't realize what everyone else has to deal with this coal. Yeah, there's some jobs out there, but they shouldn't be at the expense of our lives and our environment. Especially along the Columbia, there's been so much development, energy and other development, and it's the salmon and the environment that bears the impact. And we as tribes know of our connection to Earth and our Creator. We are intimately connected, and we are bearing the cost as well. What will happen with this proposal is the trains will come in to Boardman, and they'll transfer the coal into big barges, and the barges will go down the Columbia. The other proposals, especially the ones in the lower Columbia, those are going to be trains that go through, a lot of trains. Those proposals are huge proposals. And the one in Coos Bay also has trains coming through. And I believe Grays Harbor, that will be the route if that one is approved also. I don't know about the one in Bellingham. It sounds like that one's going to go up north. But most of the coal in all of these 5 proposals, most of the coal is going to go through the Columbia Gorge one way or the other. This just gives you a sense of how much coal and where. The largest facility is the one in Bellingham, the Cherry Point. A lot of trains. Longview in the lower Columbia and westward, both of those are in the lower Columbia. Also very large proposals with a lot of trains going through. The Port of Morrow is not so big, and those are 4 trains coming into Boardman, and then barges from there down to the Columbia. This coal is going to get into our tribal communities' bodies, in their lungs. It's in our fishing areas. It gets into the river, our children's play areas, where we will be directly affected by all of these trains coming through. The kind of proposals we're talking about is going to change the face of the Northwest. And we don't want to take a hasty step backwards. We got to keep this momentum going. We've got Washington on the run, Idaho's next. We're trying to get this environment cleaned up, and this kind of a proposal is for these 5 different terminals. It will change a lot out here in the Pacific Northwest, and it'll be a big step backward in all the work that we've done to clean up the environment for the salmon and for our bodies.